Hampshire is one of the 6 states that make up the region of New England in the United States. Situated on the northeast side of the country, it's known for its gorgeous seaside terrain, a certain good-looking quarterback who might like to kiss his kids on the mouth a little too much, and of course, the season of fall, which just so happens to be where we're at now. The season of fall is especially beautiful in the East Coast of the United States. If you've ever had a phone background or seen a computer background of those orange, yellow, red trees going on, chances are that picture was taken in New England. I mean, could have been taken in a lot of places, but New England has a gorgeous fall. And what comes with fall? Apples. And what comes with apples? Apple cider donuts. See where we're going here? The thing about apple cider donuts though is that they kind of suck. I'll be the first one to say that. They're usually a little too dry, they don't really taste like apples, and I don't know, they're just not my favorite donut. However, a freshly made, well-done apple cider donut is truly a transcendent thing, and the perfect way to welcome in the fall season. Today we're gonna take some precautions to infuse these donuts with apple flavor and make them a lot more dank. All right, so every apple cider donut, of course, is gonna start with apple cider, which, if you are unfamiliar, is this stuff. Looks kind of like maybe you've been out drinking too long into the night and this is what your pee looks like, but it's not pee, it's apple cider. It's literally just pretty much unfiltered apple juice. If anything, it's a little more complex and fun. Wow, pure sugar. We're gonna reduce this down and make it even more intense and sugary and apple-y tasting. That foggy impurity right there, that's apple flavor. All right, that's about 2 cups of apple cider. We're gonna reduce this down 3/4 to about 1/2 cup. While this is rolling and reducing, we're gonna mix together our dry ingredients, which consist of flour, all-purpose, touch of baking soda, baking powder, our spices, which consist of some ground clove, cinnamon, ground ginger, and nutmeg, and a pinch of salt. Don't forget the pinch of salt. Season your desserts too. And we're just gonna whiskey this whole thing up just to help it incorporate more. That's good. So this reduction we're doing here, that concentration of apple flavor, is one way how we're gonna pump some apple flavor into these donuts so they're not just, you know, like cinnamon sugar donuts, which honestly most apple cider donuts kind of tend to be. So remember, they're called apple cider donuts, not cinnamon sugar donuts. Also check this little gourd. It looks like a pumpkin, but it's not. Put that right here for later. Okay, that looks about right. Perfect, we're gonna cut the heat. Reduced apple cider. We're gonna pop that into a separate bowl. It's gonna help cool it off a little bit too. A lot of donut recipes call for sour cream. I'm gonna use creme fraiche because it's a little richer and I don't know, I have it in the crib, so we're using it, it's gonna be great. Then lastly, vanilla. If you have a vanilla pod, by all means use it. If you have vanilla extract, you can use that too. Whenever I'm doing something where you can see the vanilla bean in the final product, you know, I like to use either beans or this paste here. We're not really gonna be able to see the vanilla in the final product, but again, this paste is just kind of like my preferred way to have vanilla. I don't really buy pods, I use this. So we're gonna do, I don't know, like a teaspoon or 1/2 teaspoon, whatever the recipe says. Listen to the recipe, not me. Almost forgot, very important thing here. This is apple butter, right? People get confused. Is it butter that's been sort of whipped with apple? No, it's literally just reduced applesauce. You could take applesauce and do what we just did to the apple cider until it's dark and fudgy, kind of like this, and it's just gonna concentrate, and that's what people call apple butter. This is actually a little trick that I picked up watching Claire Saffitz make her apple bee donuts, and it was a fantastic idea because this really does help it taste super appley. And if you can't really find apple butter, you can leave it out, but I recommend, I mean, you know, do what I just said, like go grab some apples. It sounds like a huge pain in the ass, but like grab some applesauce, reduce it down, you'll be glad you did because these donuts are actually going to taste like, you know, you plucked them from the tree. All right, beautiful. That would be bad if we forgot that, wouldn't it? Cool. We're gonna cream some sugar into our egg mixture to just ensure that everything is nice and homogenized together. Very important step. We wanna cream these eggies with the shugs. So we got some white sugar there. We're gonna add some brown sugar. And remember, brown sugar is just sugar with a little molasses added to it. Just kind of add to that sort of fall autumnal feel. A little darker in color too, obviously. We're just gonna keep whisking this till it's nice and cream, beer. Oh, caramel tea. All right, so see how that looks nice and glossy and pretty like? That's what we want. Now, richness in the form of butter. Just gonna pour all that melted butter in, keep whisking, and there she blows. It's confusing because, you know, usually when you bake, you got your dry and your wet. In our case, we have our dry, remember our flours, our leaveners, our spices, our wet, the apple cider, the creme fraiche, the apple butter. This is technically wet too, so it's kind of confusing, but this is gonna be, you can think of this as like home base, wet, dry. And now we're gonna combine them together to make donut batter. Donut dough. It's not donut dough. All right, what we're gonna do now is switch off adding our dry and our wet to our other wet. So it's confusing, just watch, you'll get it. Gonna start with some of our dry here. We're gonna work that in maybe in like thirds. Swing, 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 swing. Fantastic. A little bit of our wet. That'll help loosen things up. And the reason you do this is just to kind of make sure you have a nice hydrated batter. Why do I keep saying batter? Dough. It'll be a dough, but it'll be a wet dough. All right, there's another third or so, right, give or take. Boom, boom. You can probably switch your whisk out for a rubber spat. Man, it smells so cinnamony. All right, last third. Nice fold overs here. Cool. And I just like to kind of mix this together until you can't really see flour anymore. And yes, as you can see here, it's very slack. That's why I kept calling it a batter instead of a dough on accident. And this is what we're left with here. If you see a couple streaks of flour, that's fine, but you want it to be pretty mixed, pretty thoroughly mixed. Call that a dough, call that a batter, whatever tickles your biscuits. This would be really tough to punch donuts out of if we didn't chill it down to help harden and solidify it. So that's what we're gonna do. Got ourselves a nice good old regular sheet tray here, some parchment paper. I'm gonna take some all-purpose flour and just kind of like dust that boy. Dust my hands a little bit. And then we're just gonna take all of our wonderful dough and plop that on. Ain't that nice? Remember, super wet dough. You can be liberal with your dusting here, because what we're gonna do is we are going to pat this boy down to about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. You know, these are going to be what we're gonna press our donuts out into, but you know, they will expand a bit in the fryer as they leaven. Which, speaking of, you know, we didn't add any yeast to these donuts. These are cake donuts. They're meant to be cakier. They're not gonna be as light. They're gonna be have a little more body to them. So you could be a little more precise with this if you want. Rolling pin it out, be my guest. We're gonna do things rustic here and just kind of pat it down by hand, gets the job done as well. Take a little more flour since we're gonna let it rest. And then I'm just gonna, so it doesn't dry out super hard, pop another layer on top there. And we are gonna let that chill in the fridge for about 20 minutes. Again, it's gonna make our life a little easier when it comes to punching out our donuts. You'll see in the fridge. All right, cinnamon sugar for our dunkage after the fact is quite literally sugar. And you guessed it, cinnamon. A little more maybe, there you go. This is going to be for dunking our beautiful little donuts in after the fact. There you have it, cinnamon plus sugar equals cinnamon sugar. Go figure. All right, 20 or so minutes has elapsed. Dough looks very much the same. This is a good thing. Now, to cut out our pieces of dough. These are our circle mold cutters here. If you have like a wide cup and a smaller cup or some other cookie cutter shapes, you could totally use those. I have this, so this is what I am going to use. All right, what do we got here? I think I'll use the largest one. And for maybe the second smallest for our hole. Yeah, that looks good. What do you think? Looks nice. Remember when I said this dough is very sticky? Well, it still is. So these cutters are actually going to stick to the dough pretty easily. So you're really gonna have to make sure to flour your cutter. And it doesn't really like to stick that much at first here, but you'll see once we go in. So watch, press it in, nice little jiggle. Sticky, sticky, sticky all to the edges of that. So you're just gonna wanna keep flouring. It's gonna be sticky, it's gonna be annoying. I'm just gonna use my hands. They don't gotta be extremely perfect because, bam. So with that is one little donut there. Take a little more flour if you're scared of it kind of sticking to stuff. We're gonna put that right there. This is how I do it. Some people go both holes off the bat. I like to kind of just get my main discs out like this. Very nice. Feel free to reshape if you'd like. A little more flour. Okay, so as you can see, we have a lot of leftover dough here, which is totally okay because it's so wet. You can literally just kind of take it and form it into some other, another little dough pile and just start over. I think I'll probably just do this. And you can literally just repress it out and get like 2, maybe even 3, maybe even 4, if you're feeling crazy, extra donuts. Beautiful. Look at that. 3 extra donuts. I'm gonna make 1 more boy. Cool. All right, now here we have our little guy and we are going to punch the holes to make these things pucks to donuts. And it's cool because the holes like to kind of come out on their own. Who doesn't like a good D-nut hole? Beautiful. And would you look at that? Our oil is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just using a neutral oil. I think it's sunflower. Any oil is fine as long as it's neutral. Don't use olive oil. Don't use animal fat, no lard, except that could actually be kind of dank, but I'm gonna say no, not for apple cider donuts. It's really easy to manhandle these donuts here, and if you try to pick them up, it's kind of easy to misshape them. So, inevitably you're gonna kind of mess with them a little bit. So I'm just gonna take a fish spat, nice bendy fish spat here, kind of get under them a little bit, pop them in the oil like that. These only need a couple of minutes on both sides. You'll see they brown very fast. Look at this plumper. That baking soda helping us get that super dark brown color that we've come to expect out of an apple cider donut. It's about the same color as apple cider too. Don't pop these right in the cinnamon sugar. Let them cool down a tiny bit, dry off a tiny bit, drain a tiny bit, and then put them in the cinnamon sugar. Oh yeah, the craggles, dude. Now you could eat these apple cider donuts as is and they would be very tasty, or you can make an apple custard for them, sort of what I'm calling this, right? It's a pastry cream that we basically beat apple butter into. It's very delicious. It makes the donuts taste that much more apple-y, which if you couldn't tell by now is a goal of mine in this process. This is just a simple apple butter custard that I whipped up. If you want the full recipe for this, it's gonna be over on Patreon. You totally don't need to serve your donuts with this. They're gonna be great as is. But if you wanna bump that apple factor up a little bit and make them taste even more apple-y, you gotta give this a look at. You gotta check this out. Right now, as you can see, it is a viscous, super thick pastry cream that's been thickened with egg yolk and cornstarch. But we're gonna lighten it up by adding some whipped cream that we just made. I'm gonna start with about a cup of whipped cream. This is just going to kind of help lighten the whole thing up and make it more dippable for our donuts instead of just glopping it into a pasty situation. So I'm just folding the cream into our spiced apple custard. That's nice and light. Let's give that a taste. That's dang tasty and apple-y. All right, here we are. Let's give these a go. Look at this. First off, cinnamon sugar, nice and dark. Exterior, nice and dark. I like when an apple cider donut looks like apple cider, right? This is not apple juice. It's not a light golden thing. It's a dark golden thing. And you know, they're very similar, as you can see here. Smells appley. Another gripe that I have about apple cider donuts is they never taste appley enough. You've heard me say it 500 times this video. But the third thing is that for me, cake donuts usually just kind of fall flat, right? Yeast donuts are usually a little lighter, slightly chewy. I usually like the more cake donuts tend to be kind of dry and a little too meaty for me. I kind of like a lighter donut. But when you make this style of cake donut from scratch at home fresh, it's a whole different story. And if you can go to like an apple orchard and get them fresh there, again, it's a whole different story. All right, let's just shut up, check this out. Heck yeah, dude, look at that. You can kind of see specks of all those spices. That cinnamon sugar sticking to your fingers. How could that be bad? All right, I'm gonna go bare bones, no cream, see what we got here. The addition of the apple butter definitely helps make it more appley. But I think the way that these are gonna be from really good to insanely good is by doing this. Oh. Apple butter cream on our apple cider donuts. Hot diggity donut. Okay, yeah, excellent. And wash it all down. Sugar Fest 2023. It's good stuff though. Gracias to New Hampshire for bestowing us with so many apples, and therefore so many apple cider donuts. On next episode of Cooking the States, we're heading over to Jersey. We're going to New Jersey, staying on the East Coast, going down south. If you think you know what we're gonna make, you know the drill. Let us know in the comments below. If you dug the video, give it a like. If you're new to the channel here, subscribe. Best way to support us is over on the Patreon. You can get that recipe for the apple cream that we made. There's a lot of other stuff over there as well. Got fun giveaways, yada yada. Whether you are on the Patreon or not, come say what up in Discord. Halloween is about to be here, and if you're watching it at this point, and we're gonna do a special thing over there where we watch a bunch of scary movies. It's pretty fun, love scary movies. Thought I'd bring it up since we're in such a fall spirit right now. That's all I got for you this week, and until next time, au revoir.